So we'll get to the active inactives now. So just give me a sec here. So in terms of who's active, who's inactive, okay, so starting with the Atlanta Falcons, there's really no fantasy relevant players. Lee Smith at tight end be the only of the offensive skill positions that we're looking at for fantasy. The only inactive listed. It's not really in much. Same with the Bills, not really seeing anything major there. Same with the Browns. So it seems like everyone's healthy. I know I think Jarvis was limited at practice this week, but he's clearly going to be playing. So for the Cowboys, I guess. Oh, here's one. Tyron Smith is inactive for the Cowboys. So again, there's no one plays offensive lineman in fantasy, but it shows that I guess against the Falcons defense, I don't know if it's that much of a worry. Pass protection could be a bit more difficult. I don't think this really affects Zeke at all. It might affect the passing game a little bit. I don't, as much as Tyron Smith's a great left tackle and it hurts to not have him. I'm not going to bench guys like Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb. Dak probably can't afford to bench him anyway. If it's a super flex league, do you really have 3 quarterbacks that you can play? Do you have 2 that you can play over Dak? That'd be an incredible team build, but I find that one hard to believe. And even in a single quarterback league, are there enough upside options? I think I'd still go with Dak. I don't really think it's going to affect much of how I play Cowboys this week. Maybe you go less with them in DFS, if anything. Lions, Jamal Williams inactive, Josh Reynolds inactive. Not that Josh Reynolds has been doing much, but yeah, I think with Jamal Williams inactive means Jamar Jefferson's the main backup, so that's something there. For the Colts, Marlon Mack inactive again. They've done that a few times this year, so mostly going to be just Jonathan Taylor and Nyheim Hines. For the Jaguars, James Robinson is active. James Robinson will be playing today. Basically makes Carlos Hyde unplayable. Against the Colts defense, though, it's looking at my rankings, I've got James Robinson outside the top 15 running backs. Still have him as a top 20 option. Not, you're probably going to play him. He's not someone I want to play in DFS at all, though. That's for sure. Avoid him there, but I think he probably will get enough volume to make it worth it. Patriots. Jonnu Smith's inactive. So that's big enough news. If you're playing Hunter Henry, you probably and Damian Harris inactive. So starting with Jonnu Smith, it really I think just affects Jonnu Smith. If you were playing Hunter Henry anyway up to this point, Smith being in or out isn't going to affect that decision. I think it's a tough matchup against the Browns defensively, so that more affects it than anything. But yeah, Damian Harris inactive. So look for the rookie Ramondre Stevenson to kind of get especially a lot of the goal line stuff. So some touchdown upside there, I think. Brandon Bolden, JJ play too. But yeah, Damian Harris inactive. Fantasy-wise so far, it's probably the biggest one we've come across yet. For the Saints, Alvin Kamara is inactive. They kind of announced that a few days ago, so we knew that going in, that Mark Ingram's going to get the start, and he's worth playing, I think, if you need the running back. For the Jets, LaMichael Pirine inactive, which I think means Tevin Coleman might be active today. And I know it's been a while; he's been a few games away. So how much will he eat into Michael Carter's work? I think Carter's played so well that I don't, and Ty Johnson as well. I really do feel like Coleman's coming in; he's going to be the third guy there. He's not cutting in front of anybody. Steelers-wise, Ben Roethlisberger's out on the COVID list, and then Chase Claypool was ruled out earlier this week with an injury. So we'll see about next week's availability. Right now, they won't be in. So Mason Rudolph is getting the start for the Steelers this week. And I think sorry, I'm just trying to find the next team because the Bucks. So the Bucks. I was trying to find confirmation fully on Chris Godwin, but it looks like he is active. So that's one where Godwin's not 100%, but if he's playing, I'm going to play him. I've got him in a couple leagues. I'm not benching him. One I could, in theory, do it. I've got Michael Pittman starting, or I could start Michael Pittman if I wanted to, instead of Chris Godwin, but I think I'm going to leave Godwin in the lineup. Got Brady in that league too, so having the stack helps there. Trying to think of other leagues. I think there's another league where I've got Godwin, and I just lost Robert Woods. So this is one where I was really hoping Godwin was going to play. Like I really can't afford to bench Godwin in that league. Would have had to if he wasn't playing, obviously. But if like it's one of those where if he's in my lineup. So that's just how I'm going with Chris Godwin. Nothing major for the Titans. Washington, Antonio Gandy Golden and Curtis Samuel are both inactive. And I mean, Logan Thomas is still on the IR as well. So, Terry McLaurin, you're starting him every week. I think Ricky Seals-Jones is definitely playable. He might be second on the team in targets. I've got Gibson in one league, and it's tricky. I am going to play him. It's tough against the Buccaneers front seven. Like, you might not get a touchdown. It's more about, is he healthy? Can he score a long touchdown? That's how it's going to have to be. It's like the big breakaway plays. So does the week off last week not having a game, does that help him get healthier? Because you have been dealing with the shin and ankle injury. So it's kind of one of those where Gibson's the type of player where I don't want him to go off on my bench, right? Like it's one of those, I'll take the bad week if it, as opposed to, throwing him in. I think, like, if I think about my best option in that league, I think it's Olamide Zaccheaus, right? So do I want that Falcons receiver who, got 2 touchdowns last week, but on 3 catches? Like, that type of volume I'm not crazy about chasing. So, so I would play Antonio Gibson. But, like I said, the big actives and inactives this week are, I guess the big one isn't really a fantasy player, but it's Tyron Smith from the Cowboys. Again, though, I don't know how impactful that's going to be on not playing Dak. Definitely, like, Zeke for sure is in 100%. You're probably playing Lamb and CeeDee Lamb, Mari Cooper. Maybe if anything, like if you're on the Michael Gallup coming back, that might be the one where you decide, okay, first game back from injury, no left tackle either. Maybe I sit Gallup this week. But other than that, I don't see myself. I'm trying to think, because I've got Gallup in one league and I don't really have a viable option to not play him, so I'm still going to play him anyway. Like it's one of those, but that's like maybe the only guy where if I had another option, I would look to put in. Jamal Williams inactive, Josh Reynolds inactive, Jonnu Smith, tight end for the Patriots, inactive. Talked about Chase Claypool, Ben Roethlisberger being out, Antonio Brown, Rob Gronkowski out for the Buccaneers, but also means some active players. So James Robinson is in. Chris Godwin was questionable. He's playing. In terms of other questionable players, I don't think there was anyone else that really carried questionable designations. I think some of the Cowboys guys might have been like Amari Cooper, but it seemed like he was going to play the whole time. So he's officially active. But I think I guess the biggest news is probably Tyron Smith, but also I don't know how much it really changes the equation. And I guess biggest news in terms of players that are inactive this morning that we didn't know about, it's really Jonnu Smith and Damian Harris. That's the full announcement there of like what the Patriots running back situation is going to be. Like Damian Harris inactive, Ramondre Stevenson in the lineup. So Ramondre Stevenson is playing. So I think he is viable. You can play Stevenson, especially with Damian Harris out. If Harris was active, it's tough to play any other running back on that team, even though there could be production. But with Harris out, I think it opens up multiple options. You can play, like I said, Ramondre Stevenson. You can maybe play Brandon Bolden if you want, if deep enough league where you're willing to roster Brandon Bolden. Could play him as well. I don't think there's anything else really of news note in terms of players. I guess, again, some of the tricky things for later today. Oh, Wheeler's here. You hadn't have minutes, Wheeler, but I guess like you could join my thought process here for what do you do with the players that are questionable later, right? Like, so you've got the Cardinals. It doesn't look like Kyler Murray or Hopkins is going to play. It seems like the reports are leaning that they'll be out. Rondale Moore is also questionable. So you've got, unfortunately, if you're kind of wait on those players for the official word, then you also have limited games to choose from. You only get the 4:00 Eastern games and then the 2 night games, tonight and tomorrow night. And so in one league, or a couple leagues actually, I've got Keenan Allen, and he's another player that's questionable. And I think like where I've got Allen, I've either traded for him or drafted in a way where I've also got Herbert in those leagues. So I've got that stack. So what I think I've done in one league in particular was pick up other Jalen Guyton, right? Like so like Keenan Allen's the type of guy that has so much upside that I'm willing to wait on him. And even if I got to replace someone that's with suboptimal as opposed to other options on my bench, I'd rather take that risk it approach. Right, I know like Wheeler's saying starting others in their place. I think that's like specifically talking about like guys like Hopkins, right, who missed last week, likely to miss again this week. He's one where, that's maybe, and also with Kyler hurt, maybe there's not as much upside with Hopkins this week. So that's one where, you can make that decision now and just say, I'm just not playing Hopkins. Even if he comes up and he's active and he's on my bench and he's stuck there and I can't move him, that's fine. Like I'll take that. Like it's about risk reward, right? I think the reward you get with Keenan Allen is worth waiting. DeAndre Hopkins, not so much. It seems like Wheeler's talking about that too. So maybe that's a good context to talk about, or which players are worth kind of holding and waiting for. Like I know George Kittle, I think, is questionable Monday night. I know I've seen him a lot of questionable tags in my leagues, and like that's tough because it's tight end usually a onesie position. So it's either am I flexing the tight end that week and kind of holding them, or do you take the risk? And I think so. What I've done in a lot of leagues is he's got so much upside that I'm willing to take the risk it approach, but it also means making sure you have the other option. Where I can, where I've got Kittle in leagues where he was available, because I play in some leagues with some tight end premium settings that make it so every tight end gets scooped up anyway. But in leagues where I've got Kittle, I've also picked up Ross Dwelly. If Kittle's out, Ross Dwelly will be starting. So with it's one of those where Dwelly, it really doesn't do anything if Kittle's in, but if Kittle's out, suddenly he can at least have the chance to see targets. I don't think it's a high upside option, but I don't want to replace Kittle right now and find out he's playing and again stuck on the bench. So it's one of those where you take the risk tolerance on certain players. Guys like Keenan Allen, George Kittle, I've got options set up, but I'm willing to risk it being out and again playing those suboptimal options that give me the time aspect, right? Rather than playing a better player at 1:00, I'm waiting till 4:00. And again, in Indy, it's like I know Wheeler's saying it too. Like all reports are Keenan Allen is playing. But it's still, until I get that 100%, I want to have Jalen Guyton ready just in case, or whatever the other options are in certain leagues. So it's things like that. But yeah, it sounds like what we're hearing is Hopkins isn't going to play. So that's one where you're probably not worrying about it. Is it something where I've got Hopkins and Christian Kirk? Then maybe play Hopkins, and if he's out, then you just easily put Christian Kirk in. That might be one where even if Hopkins plays, Kirk might be the healthier, better option anyway. But like that's kind of how I'm approaching the late game questionable players, because that's always tricky, right? Every week or two we get that, and it's just making sure you've got another option that's playing in that game. I think in one league where I've got Kittle, it's a start 12, 24 team league. There's 2 copies of players, but it's still 24 teams, so managers picking up guys everywhere, and it's tough to find players, really, frankly, on the waiver wire. Both Ross Dwelly copies were already taken, so I've got Kittle in the lineup, and I think I've got Kyle Juszczyk as the backup in case of emergency option. Not great. I don't want to play it, so really banking on Kittle playing, but it's, again, Kittle is the type of player with that type of upside, and same with Keenan Allen, that I'm willing to take that risk on with them. I think with Kyler Murray, I know what I've done too in the leagues where I've got Kyler Murray, even before this ankle injury, a lot of the super flex leagues, deep quarterback leagues where like backup quarterbacks are getting rostered. I made sure I went up and picked up Colt McCoy and even Chris Streveler a couple weeks ago, just without knowing if Murray ever gets hurt. Right. And then he did get hurt. So it was one of those where I wasn't really panicking to go out and get Colt McCoy. Anywhere where I needed Colt McCoy, I already had him rostered. So that was kind of the one thing there. But yeah, like Wheeler's saying, if you've got Murray and let's say you don't have Colt McCoy, it's again maybe finding another available option at that 4:00 or later. But don't even see the questionable tag on Kittle anymore. So it might all be for nothing. So yeah, assume Kittle's playing then, I guess. I think that's again, it's one where when I'm looking at things Friday and players are questionable, again, for those Monday, I just always make sure I've got that emergency option. Like a guy like Ross Dwelly, I got no problem holding on to him until Monday night and then cutting him for next waivers, right? Like it's just like the back end of your roster is sometimes saved for those guys playing Monday night, guys playing Sunday night that you can kind of really throw in for any player that's playing before that. So sometimes it's good to maybe just do that, like have a designated roster spot on your team that's a Monday night player, right? Whoever's playing the Monday night that week, just find whoever's the best option available playing that week, and you have them, and then they can be thrown into a flex at any point if anyone's injured, and you don't have to worry about, oh, I've got to make this decision before I know for sure, right? Like that might be just a thing to do. Yeah, Dwelly's a good insurance policy. It might be honestly a thing in a couple of those leagues where just, as a backup to Kittle, just hold him anyway. But yeah, do have a question here to get to before we head out. Steelers or Titans defense? This is tricky. I think because both matchups, I think it's tricky for the right reason, because both matchups are good, favor the defense, right? Like it's two suboptimal offenses. For the Saints, especially, it's just because lost their starting quarterback, right? Like so, you target backup quarterbacks. For the Steelers, I mean, it's Goff's been playing like a backup quarterback, really. I think it's just I guess the such lack of faith in the Lions offense. Even the games where they've been close, they've been close because the other offenses haven't been performing and have left them in it. I think there was maybe the 49ers game where the Lions put up a lot of points, but for the most part, that offense really hasn't been producing and been turning the ball over a lot. I think I'll say the Steelers, just again, as much as Simeon or Taysom Hill, whoever's playing for the Saints, is a step down from Jameis Winston. I think it's still more faith in that offense overall. Even without Alvin Kamara, right? Like I think a Mark Ingram offense could maybe gets a few touchdowns more so than the Lions. I guess DeAndre Swift's there too. Actually, one thing I'll look at is one thing I actually like looking at for true fantasy defenses is the offensive line rankings. I'm going to pull that up real quick and kind of make my final decision based on that. So in terms of adjusted sack rate, which is what I'm going to look at specifically, like for the offenses, for those offensive lines, which pass rushers are more likely to get home. The Lions are 21st in the league with a 6.9% pass sack rate. Sorry, not so nice of a number, but it's also not horrible. Like there's some really bad teams that are above 10% in the NFL. Titans are 29th actually at it's the Titans. It's Titans defense. So Saints are 19th, 6.4%. So it's actually really close offensive line wise. Technically, the Lions are worse. So I think I would lean that. So yeah, I would say take the Steelers defense playing the Lions. That's how I would go about it. Wheeler talking about insurance options. Ross Dwelly is a good insurance option to George Kittle. Foster Moreau is a good insurance option to Darren Waller. They're unplayable if the starter's in, but if the starter's out, then they go into a huge role where the tight end is coveted. Maybe not so much for the 49ers. It's not even the role. That's just Kittle's a beast, right? He can get 100-yard games on such few catches, more than any other tight end, and that's kind of the extra edge that Kittle gets. So Dwelly can't quite. I think Foster Moreau is probably a better example of that, to be fair, than Ross Dwelly is, because when Waller's out, he's a good athlete, but it's huge volume, and it seems like when they put Foster Moreau in, the tight end just gets huge volume in that offense. But it's the same type of thing where, again, those Monday night insurance policies, I think, is where I like to go. And again, thanks Brent for coming here to ask your question, and appreciate the view and the support. Again, Wheeler, appreciate you coming in as always and commenting. I know Wheeler's definitely a really great ranker in the industry, so someone like that coming in and watching this stream, that's great. So appreciate that. I think don't see any other questions or comments, so I'm gonna head out now for this week. Again, the big inactive news, I guess, was Jonnu Smith. It's more the players would be that were questionable for this morning. It seems like a lot of them are playing. Damian Harris out. That's the big one. Damian Harris, Jonnu Smith out. The two Patriots, really. That's where the big news is. But Chris Godwin's in, James Robinson's in, Ramondre Stevenson's in. All three are going to have viable roles. So, yeah. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, hit the like button, subscribe to the Full Press Coverage channel. And you can follow along on Twitter. I'm at Senra Says. Also, the co-host the Full Press Fantasy Pod at FPC_Fantasy Pod. And yeah, I think it'll be another week of NFL football today. So hopefully everyone does well, whether it's lineups and season-long leagues or with the DFS leagues. Appreciate, again, the support, the views, and hope everyone has a great Sunday of football. And we'll see you all next week on FPC Sunday. Bye for now.